What's up guys, my name is Jack, you're watching JBTCG, and with everything getting so expensive in the Pokemon hobby, I wanted to go over 30 different Pokemon cards that you can get for under $30. And I'm not just going to be listing random cards at random price points, we're actually going to move from a $1 card and count all the way up to a $30 card at the end. And I tried to choose a bunch of different cards from a bunch of different eras, and I also tried to pick the coolest card or the most undervalued card at each different price point. So hopefully in this video I show off some cards that maybe you haven't seen before or you forgot about in the past. Either way, we have a lot to cover, so let's hop over to my $1 card. This is going to be the Palafin from Paldean Fates. There aren't very many full art cards or illustration rare cards that you can get for $1, and in my opinion, this is the best one. I've included this in a couple of my other videos, and that's because it's a really cool card. It's a shiny Palafin. I think Palafin's a dope Pokemon, and the overall the look of the card, it's so ominous. The placing of the Palafin in the middle, it's just really well done. And the reason that it's so cheap is actually because the pull rates for it are super high. If you don't know, in Paldean Fates, there are only 3 different illustration rares that you can get. I believe it is this Palafin, the Pawmi, and the Wug Trio. But the odds for an illustration rare are still fairly normal. I think they're around 1 in 12. And this means that there's a ton of these Palafin cards that are in existence, and that's why the prices are so cheap. But it doesn't make the card any less cool, in my opinion. And if you pair it up next to some $20 or $30 illustration rares, in my opinion, it just fits right in. But we've got to move on to our next card, and for our $2 slot, this is going to be the Gardevoir Trainer Gallery from Silver Tempest. This is an Akira Agawa artwork, and it's killer. This is a really well done card. You get Diantha, you get Gardevoir, just everything about it is super cool. And a lot of these Trainer Gallery cards from the Sword and Shield era or from the Trainer Gallery or Altar era, they're really undervalued in my opinion. You can get some crazy deals. Another card that's super undervalued from this, which I'm not including in this list, is the Houndoom Trainer Gallery. It's like $1 or $2 as well. But there's so many of these cool Trainer Gallery cards out there that no one is really talking about. And this one is one of the best, and it's only $2. And the card looks regal and fancy without having the regal and fancy price tag. But moving on to our $3 card, this is going to be the Enzora from the Journey Together ETB. I love this card. This is one of my favorite ETB promos. I think this, the Eevee from Prismatic Evolutions, which we will touch on later in this video, the Charmander from Obsidian Flames, and the Snorlax from 151. I love all those ETB promos. And this one being $3, I not only think is a great deal, but I think it's undervalued and will likely increase in value in the future. We've seen a lot of these promos get pumped up to really high prices, and this one at $3 is a really low entry point. So while everyone's pumping up the Stained Glass Birds promo and the Greninja promo from Celebrations, I'll be picking this card up for $3. Now moving on to our $4 card, this is going to be another Trainer Gallery, and this is going to be the Kingdra from Astral Radiance. I don't know why, I always just really liked Kingdra cards, and this one is just, it's really well done. It's a great Kingdra card. I like the colors, I like the movement in the card and the positioning of the Kingdra. It's just overall a great card, and it's only $4. That's why I made this list. I think you can make a full page of really cool Trainer Gallery cards, and it would only cost you like 30 bucks, and I would 100% put this card on that page. I believe this is the last Trainer Gallery card I have on this list, but there's many others to look out for out there, so definitely go check them out after this video. Now moving on to our $5 card, this is going to be the Chatot illustration rare from Temporal Forces. And this card holds a special place in my heart, not only as a Sinnoh fan and a Gen 4 fan, but because the person who made this card clearly loves Pokemon to throw in the Easter eggs that they did. So if you didn't know, the Chatots on the clothing lines actually match up with music notes, and the top 3 is actually the Chatot Cry, and the bottom 5 is actually the Healing at the Pokemon Center jingle. And I just think that it's really cool that someone poured a ton of effort and a ton of love into a Chatot illustration rare and added these Easter eggs that they really didn't have to. They could have made a really bland illustration rare, but they chose to go above and beyond with it. So for $5, I think it's an absolute steal. I actually have one of these. But for all the cards in our first 5 slots, we stayed in the Scarlet and Violet and the Sword and Shield era. Now we're going to move back to XY Evolutions and look at Brock's Grit. This is actually one of the cheapest full art cards from the X and Y era, and one of the cheapest textured cards that we have in general. I think that the gold borders here just really make it pop, and I'm not the biggest fan of full art trainers or special illustration rare trainers, but there are some really good ones out there. And this one has gold borders, it has texture, and it's from the XY era, and it's only $6. So if you're a fan of full art trainer cards, this one is for you. But moving on to our $7 card, we're going to move back into the Scarlet and Violet era with the Eevee Prismatic ETB promo. You knew this one had to be on this list. It's a great promo card. It's only $7. We might actually see it drop a good bit in price in the coming month because Sam's Club is getting a new bundle with ETBs and Pokeball tin. But there's rumored to be around 120 to 150,000 units of these bundles. So we're going to see a ton more of these ETB promos on the market, and we might see the price drop even further, maybe back down to $5. But regardless, whether it's $5 or $7, I think this is a killer ETB promo. I think it's just a killer card in general. Long term, I don't see it staying under $10. And even if it did end up staying under $10 long term, I still think it's a great card and a great price. Now moving on to our $8 card, this is our first Crown Zenith card on the list, and it won't be the last. And this is the Hisuian Samurott V. So I'm a big fan of Gen 4, but I'm also a big fan of Gen 5. So Samurott was actually my starter, or I guess Oshawott was my starter, and it evolved into a Samurott. So when we got the Legends Arceus game and we got the Hisuian forms of Pokemon and the Hisuian starters, and we got Hisuian Samurott, that was awesome. It was like perfect, right up my alley. And then this card is killer. Everything about this card is amazing. You got Mount Coronet in the background, the water on the lake, the foliage, just everything about this card is so pleasant. It's also textured. It's an alt art style card because it's from the Galarian Gallery, the alt art portion of that Galarian Gallery. And I really just think it's a great card, but the Pokemon isn't that hyped up right now. It's not Charizard, it's not Dragonite, it's not Garchomp or Mewtwo, so a ton of people aren't flocking to buy it. And now, will this card double in price in the coming months? Probably not, but I still think for $8, if you're looking for a great card for your binder, this is it. Now moving on to our $9 card, this is going to be Gardenia's Vigor, also from Crown Zenith, and this card, again, the detail here, the detail in all the Crown Zenith cards is just outstanding. And this one is really, really nice. I like how the foliage kind of surrounds Gardenia in the middle. You get the Easter eggs of the Pokemon. I believe there's a Cherum, maybe a Cherubi. I can't remember the last one. But I know there's a couple Pokemon peeking in and around the leaves in this card. So although I'm not a big full art trainer fan, this one is actually one I do have. And I do think if you are a full art trainer fan, this is definitely one to pick up. Now moving on to our $10 card, we're moving all the way back to the black and white era for the Deoxys EX promo. It's Deoxys EX BW82 if you're trying to look it up, but right now for a near mint copy, it's only $10. And in my opinion, this is one of the coolest EX cards and one of the coolest Deoxys cards we've gotten. And I love how it's just coming like around the frame and it looks like super menacing. I think they did a really, really good job with this card. And it's only $10. Most of these EX cards from the black and white era, or even the XY era, are super, super expensive. And with a lot of these promos getting pumped up into oblivion, it seems like people forgot about this card. So I just want to show it off and let you know, I don't know if it's going to stay $10 forever. Eventually the hype will probably get to it. But I personally have a copy of this card, and if you're looking for a cool card to add to your collection that you wanted to be one of these older EXs, I'd say this is the one to buy. Next, moving on to our $11 and our $12 cards. I'm going to group them together because they're from the same set. It's the Giovanni's Charisma SIR from 151, and then the Erica's Invitation SIR, also from 151. The Giovanni is $11 and the Erica is $12, and right now, I think that's just heavily undervalued. I've been saying this for a while now, but these two cards are fantastic. The details, just the artwork in general is so nice. And with the Giovanni's Charisma, if you changed it to make it a Persian card where you didn't change the artwork at all, you just made it a Persian card, it'd probably be worth like $20 or $30 instead of $11. In my opinion, it's a way better Giovanni SIR than the one that we got with Destined Rivals. And so for $11 and $12 for these two cards, I think it's a great deal. Do I think these are going to double or triple in price in the coming year? I don't really have any idea. It seems like people don't really care about full art trainers. I'm personally not a big fan of full art trainers either, but these ones I do think are super nice. Now moving on to our $13 card, we're going all the way back in time to the Wizards of the Coast era, and we're going to look at the Entei Reverse Holo promo. I feel like this card is a staple in anyone's collection because there were so many of these printed, but they're still a really good card, and I don't know anyone that actually dislikes this card. The red holofoil really pops, and the swirls that you get in it are amazing. I think my copy has like 3 or 4 swirls. It's a great card. You can find it practically everywhere on eBay or TCG Player. There's tons of copies, so it's not going to be some super rare addition to your collection, but if you want a card with that old Wizards of the Coast style with those big yellow borders and a nice holofoil pattern, I'd go with this card. Now moving all the way back to the Scarlet and Violet era, we're going to take a look at the Koraidon EX from Scarlet and Violet base. A lot of people aren't the biggest fans of the Scarlet and Violet box legendaries with Koraidon and Miraidon, but I still think these cards are pretty cool. They're textured SIR cards. The Miraidon is a little bit more expensive, but this card I think is also just as good. I know with a lot of the modern SIRs, they can get really expensive, but the price on this one is pretty moderate. So do I think this card is going to break through anytime soon and be $30, $40? Absolutely not. But if you're looking for a cool card at $14, I'd take a look at this one. Now moving on to an interesting card, this is going to be the Lucario Level X, but it's actually Japanese. So with a lot of Japanese Level X cards, you can actually get them for pretty cheap because they came in deck sets where you were guaranteed that Lucario Level X or a Charizard Level X. And this Lucario is only $15. I love the Level X era. I love that style of card. I love the Cosmo Holo like on the edges of the cards. Everything about these, it just reminds me of my childhood. And to get a really cool Level X card for a reasonable price like $15, I think is a great deal. But we got to keep things rolling. Moving on to our $16 card, this is the Chien-Pao EX from Paldea Evolved. This is actually one of my favorite special illustration rares from the entire Scarlet and Violet era. I love Chien-Pao. I love how he's like a saber-toothed tiger. And the styling of this card where it's like a blizzard kind of tornado around him is so cool. And instead of this being a Chien-Pao, if this was a Glaceon in the center of this with the same artwork around it, it'd probably be worth like $200 or $300. But because it's Chien-Pao, it's only worth $16. But in my opinion, I know, hot take, I think Chien-Pao is actually a cooler Pokemon than Glaceon. Now maybe the Evolution fanboys will hate on me for that, but I think this card is awesome, and for $16, it is still a great deal. Now moving on to our $17 card, and this one is actually pretty interesting. It is the Shiny Palkia Diamond and Pearl promo. Now we're not looking at near mint pricing for this card because there are very few near mint copies of it in existence, so there isn't very accurate pricing data. But for a lightly played one, you can get it for $17. And if you're just putting this card in your binder, lightly played looks pretty much the exact same as near mint. And I just think a lot of people are stuck only thinking about modern cards and modern promos. But when you look back at some of the promos that we've gotten in history, there's some really cool ones out there. And this one I think is in the top tier of them. Now moving on to our $18 card, we're going back to the Scarlet and Violet era. We're just jumping around all day today. This is going to be Cynthia's Roserade from Destined Rivals. So I'm a big Gen 4 fan, so I had to throw this on the list. This is, I think, my favorite illustration rare from the set. I think this or maybe Ethan's Typhlosion are my top two. I've just got a lot of nostalgia to Cynthia killing my team in Platinum with this Roserade, and actually mostly her Spiritomb because I didn't understand typing and why I couldn't do damage to her Spiritomb. So hopefully in the future they actually come out with a Cynthia Spiritomb card because I definitely want to see that. But I'm getting on a tangent here. Let's move on to my $19 card. This one is also pretty interesting. It's the Raikou Heart Gold and Soul Silver Shiny promo. This again is one of my favorite promos in the history of the Pokemon TCG, and it comes in a really cool set with the Entei and Suicune, and I think all three of them are just absolutely insane looking. Raikou just happens to be my favorite out of the three. And for $19, that's just an insanely good deal. Like some of the baby shinies from Paldean Fates are more expensive than this. Like the Pikachu from Paldean Fates that's just a half art Pikachu where the color of the Pikachu is slightly different is more expensive than a shiny Raikou from like 12 years ago. I don't know, maybe I'm tripping, but that just doesn't seem right. Either way, moving on to our $20 card, this is going to be the Japanese Eevee from Crimson Haze. This card in English is around $50, but you can get it in Japanese for around $20. And I really like this card. I really like both this and the Prismatic ETB promo. And I'm a big fan of buying Japanese illustration rares just in general because the pull rates for them are much higher, so they're also way cheaper. Like you can get a lot of the 151 illustration rares for between $10 and $15, where in English they're like $40 to $50. But this one specifically I think is a great illustration rare, and if you don't care about reading the names of the cards that you buy, you just care about the artwork, I definitely look into buying some Japanese single cards. Either way, moving on to our $21 card, this is going to be, I think, our first Sun and Moon card in this list. It's the Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia GX. It's the regular version of it though, not the crazy alt art version. But it's still a pretty cool card, and it's only $21. It's also a pretty legendary card just overall because of how overpowered it was in the TCG at that time. But I just thought I'd include it on this list because a lot of these tag team alt art cards are getting really expensive. So I figured I'd show off a regular tag team card that is still fairly affordable and also super cool. Now moving on to our $22 card, this is going to be the Rotom V alternate art from Lost Origin. This card I think is really well done, and with a lot of alt arts being incredibly expensive, it's nice to see that some of them are still relatively cheap. This card is actually down 26% in the past 3 months, so right now it's at a bargain compared to where it was in the past. Now do I think it's going to shoot back up in price? I don't think so. It's not a big name Pokemon or like a big chase from Lost Origin, it's a much more minor chase card, but I think it's still super cool, and if you're looking for an alternate art card, this one is pretty cheap. Now moving on to an interesting card, this is the Umbreon from Sandstorm. I think it's the only non-holo card I included on this list. Right now this card is $23, which is pretty expensive for a non-holo card, but I think it's a really cool Umbreon card, and when you line it up next to a lot of the other Umbreon cards which are incredibly expensive, even some of the older Umbreons which are like hundreds and hundreds or thousands of dollars at this point, this one is only $23. And I'm a big fan of the e-reader style of card, and if I make more videos kind of along the same lines as this one in the future, I'll definitely include some more of those cards. But I figured I'd include it because I know a lot of people out there are Umbreon fans, so if you're looking for a cool Umbreon card to add to your collection that isn't gonna just absolutely shatter your bank account, I'd definitely take a look at this one. Now moving on to our $24 card, this one is gonna be a little interesting. It's more rare and more niche, and it's actually the Groudon EX from Japanese Earth's Groudon EX. I think it's like a deck or a little set. But this one, I pulled up a PSA 5 copy of it that's selling for $24, but you can probably buy lightly played copies for around the same price. A lot of these older and more niche Japanese EX cards are still super cheap. And there's also cards like the holo version of Team Magma's Groudon, which actually got reprinted in the 25th anniversary set, that you can get in lightly played to near mint condition for between $20 and $30. So again, if you don't care about reading the name on your card, I think definitely looking at some of these older Japanese EX cards that came from deck sets or things like that, I think it's definitely something to check out because a lot of them are super cheap at the moment. Now moving on to our $25 card, we're going back to English, and this is going to be the Houndoom EX from XY Breakthrough. I think this is just a really cool card. I think Houndoom is an awesome Pokemon in general, but this one, in my opinion, is just super menacing. Houndoom is a pretty fan favorite Pokemon, and if you're looking for another XY era card to add to your collection, this one isn't too expensive. Now moving on to our $26 card, this is going to be the Vaporeon Holo from Jungle. And this is the unlimited version, but you can get it near mint for $26. This is an iconic piece of artwork, and you can get it in great condition for $26. It's very clear that the modern hype period in Pokemon and Pokemon single cards has not hit the Wizards of the Coast era. These cards are still super cheap, and this iconic evolution card is still under $30. Now moving on to our $27 card, we're going right back to the Scarlet and Violet era with the Dachsbun EX from Stellar Crown. This one was always one of my favorites from Stellar Crown. I really like what they did with the artwork here. Dachsbun is not a Pokemon that I'm like a massive fan of or anything, but I just think the artwork is really, really nice, and I think it's a great thing to have in your binder. If you want to make a page that's like chill or like cozy Pokemon, I think you absolutely could throw this one in there. Now moving on to our $28 card, we have the Volcanion EX from Steam Siege. And this is the alternate art version. The alt arts from the X and Y era are all crazy looking, like the Gardevoir, the Shaman. I'm trying to think of the others off the top of my head, but those are the only two I can come up with. They're all crazy looking, and this one is the cheapest. Volcanion has always been kind of an interesting Pokemon. It's never really been a fan favorite in the TCG or just in the Pokemon hobby in general, but it has a really cool typing, and I think it's just a really great card in general. Like the texture on these old XY cards is so cool, and this artwork is really, really unique. And this is actually a card I don't have in my collection, but it is something I've been looking at picking up, and I'll probably pick it up over the coming months. But moving on to our $29 card, this is going to be the Houndoom illustration rare from Shrouded Fable. Right now, this card is down 20% in the past 3 months, and this is, in my opinion, the best card from Shrouded Fable. It's such a cool illustration rare, and I think it shot up to like $60 or $70 at one point when all the illustration rares were being pumped. so it being down at $29 I think is an absolute steal. Feels weird putting two Houndoom cards in this list, but I couldn't resist. I think both of them are great at their price points. Now moving on to my last card, my $30 card to close out this list, I have the Bulbasaur illustration rare from 151. I'm sorry it's not some crazy throwback card or something super interesting, but I think a lot of these 151 cards at these current price points, I just don't think they're going to stay here. I think the reason that they're this low is because we've seen a lot of reprints. We've seen Alakazam EX boxes, Zapdos EX boxes, tons of Blooming Waters flooding the market, and with all these packs being open, we've seen the prices of these illustration rares drop a good bit. But these are really iconic and well done pieces of art. I don't think these cards will stay this cheap for a very long time. I think honestly, when 151 goes out of rotation, we could see cards like this Bulbasaur hit $50. We could see the Charmander hit something like $75. Now obviously none of this is guaranteed and it's all just me speculating, but at $30 I think it's a steal, and that's why I'm personally buying some more of these illustration rares from 151. I just don't think we're going to get a better price going forward for them. But that is my full list. Thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. I know this one was a little bit longer, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you did, let me know down in the comments. I would absolutely love to make more videos like this. Like I mentioned, I have a lot more cards that I think are cool for a really good price point that I'd definitely include in future videos. But that's all I got for today. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching and stay safe out there.